Hi everyone, this is Vinny Stoker. If you haven't met him before, he's the Managing Director of Pukunui, Malaysia. And not only that, but Vinny is an amazing person of connecting people to Moodle and training throughout Southeast Asia. He's very excited about Moodle, and he will certainly teach us a lot through today, through rock and rolls, and I hope you really enjoy his program. Thanks, Vinny.
Thank you very much, Wendy. Welcome, everybody. So, I quite enjoyed that music just to start things off. I'm going to talk a little bit about roles in Moodle. I was trying to think who I'm actually aiming this at, and I'm not sure. There's lots of people that don't have a particular kind of not in terms of a Moodle role, but as in what they do using Moodle in their institution. I started using it as a teacher and as a consequence of that, because it wasn't set up where I was teaching, I administered it as well. And there's lots of us that kind of have those dual roles, that we're teaching and we're administering it as well. So I've kind of tried to do a little bit of a double whammy here, showing some of the role stuff from the administration side, but also trying to fit that into how teachers can use them. So if you're a teacher, fantastic, or if you're an administrator, you can hopefully you'll be able to take some of that away to share with your teachers. This is going to be quite an interactive session. Feel free to type away bits and bobs in the chat down the side. I've got a couple of different machines on the go, which is why I'm actually appearing twice in the user list along the side. Screen sharing issues for some reason. Of course, everything worked well yesterday when I practiced it and tried it, and then I think Firefox pushed out an update this morning, which has broken something. So yeah, I'm on. I'll be switching between the two of me during the presentation. Okay, so without further ado, that's me. So as Wendy said, I am the Managing Director of Pukunui, Malaysia. I've been working for Pukunui since last August. I've been involved with Moodle for I can never remember this. It's about it's probably 9 years now. Yeah, a little longer. And I wrote science teaching for Moodle 2.0 about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, something like that. I'm just going to try and give you a little idea of how we'll divide the time up for this session. So I'm going to probably just spend about 10 minutes giving you a quick overview of roles and talking about some of the language initially, because it can be a little bit daunting if you're new to it. We'll then have a little look at some customized roles, and I've used a few examples from the iMoot site. But a big chunk of today is going to be a collaboration task, and it's great to see that people have already jumped in. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people that are already in the collaboration document. Going to be bring away typing things and collaborating, which is really cool. I'll say more about that later. And also, when I mention that, I'll tell you for those people that are possibly new to Moodle or are thinking, how did I embed that Google presentation in the course page? If you didn't notice it, there's a live document, a live Google presentation embedded in the course page that goes along with this rock and roll session. So I'll mention how I did that as well, because that's quite a handy tool to take away as well and show your teachers how to do that. really nice for like live collaboration stuff. Okay, and then we'll have a little review at the end. You can see that I've come from a teaching background, and if anybody wants to come along to my John Hattie session, which is tomorrow, which I'm repeating twice, yeah, learning objectives. I love it. It's so important. It really is. You know, there's no point in putting a presentation together or getting people to collaborate on something if you don't make it explicitly clear what you expect them to get out of it. And how they're going to be able to show some kind of success. Sorry, John, but it's something that I really believe passionately in. Yeah, it's just that's just me. So so what I want you guys to be able to get out of today, I want you to be confident enough to go away and either create new roles in your site or to be able to edit existing roles. And whether you're an admin or a teacher, you'll be able to do some of it. Because teachers can override certain permissions for their students, and we can have some nice conversation. Again, really trying to pull out the pedagogy and just, yeah, it's clever, we can do all this kind of thing, but why do we want to do this sort of thing? You know, why would you make a student a teacher? Would you make a student a teacher on a whole course, or just for a particular activity, or would you change some of the permissions, all that kind of thing. So that's what I want you to take away. I want you to be confident enough to be able to edit some of these roles or create new roles. I really want people to be able to contribute some ideas for some new roles, which is back to that live document again. So if even if you know this is the first time you're starting to think about roles and permissions within Moodle, I'm sure you've still got some good ideas that you can contribute. And then other people can pick up and say, well, these are the particular things that you need to change to be able to achieve that. Okay. Yeah, good point, Teresa. And yeah, John, modelling, good, yeah, modelling good practice. Yeah, there may be, if people have got opinions or comments, as I said earlier, just pop them into the chat. And there'll be something if I don't explicitly point out reasons for doing something, like Teresa there, she's just mentioned we allow teachers to override safe roles, but not non-editing teachers. Just little tips like that is that's really good. So thank you, Teresa. So there we go. There's a slight delay on the slides for me. I don't know how it is for you. So I'm going to start off just by giving you an overview of roles and permissions. And if you're familiar with Moodle and admin, you'll notice there's a bunch of standard roles in Moodle. I won't read them all to you. You can all read that slide. One to point out is the manager role. That's one that was introduced recently into Moodle. I guess the thinking behind that is, yeah, sure. Thank you. Definitely. Yep. I'll definitely kill the video. There you go, John. Hopefully that'll help with your audio. It should be Nancy. There's no feedback at all for the audio, and I've got quite a good connection here. Awesome. Okay, great. So, where was I? Standard roles. So there's a bunch of different standard roles, and the manager role recently was introduced, I guess, to stop people just giving site administrator access to people that probably shouldn't have it. Which possibly we've all done if you're an administrator from time to time. Those of you that are teachers, you'll probably be familiar with teacher role, non-editing teacher role, and the student role on your courses. So, yeah, I thought it'd be worth kind of pointing out some of the language and trying to give you an explanation of the words that we use in Moodle to explain roles. So, if I start with a role, so roles can be assigned to users in a particular context. Now, within Moodle, there's a variety of different contexts, and I'll show you how that kind of fits together on my next slide. Things like a course or site-wide, or within an activity or within a block, that kind of thing. So you can assign these roles to users in different contexts. The role itself is made up of a bunch of different capabilities. So the capabilities are the things that you can do within Moodle, which is these are examples of capabilities down the side here. So for forum, whether you can add news, add questions, so that's for the Q&A type forum, force users to subscribe to forums. These are all different capabilities, and there are hundreds and hundreds of them that make up a particular role. And for each of those capabilities, you can choose whether to well, not set it, which means that it's inherited from another role that the user has. You can set it to allow, you can prevent it, or you can prohibit it. And a prohibit is just a very strong prevent. The different contexts that the roles can be assigned in. You can assign that context to a user at system level, which, if you're new to Moodle, it kind of seems the right thing to do, but then tend to open up maybe too much access to people. So for instance, I've seen some installations where features might be assigned site-wide, which means that they're then added as a teacher for every single course, which is something that obviously you don't want. You can assign these contexts to users on the front page, and most of the time you would probably assign them to particular courses. So you'd choose which of the users are teachers on a course, which of the users are students on a course, non-editing teachers, that kind of thing. And a lot of it can be automated. You can also assign a role within a user, which it sounds funny, but it's things that mentors and parents are the two examples that I've seen, where you kind of open up access for a third person to have some kind of overview of that user. So you can assign a user, assign a role within a user. And so those are all examples of contexts. The cool stuff in terms of teaching, I think, is when you start playing around with changing some of the individual permissions, so some of the individual permissions on capabilities for students within activities. What we've got there? Yeah, we've got a few suggestions there. Test user across your site. Love to be able to assign a role to a topic or a week in a course. Yeah, as far as I know, John, that's not possible unless anybody suggests a way to do that. And it's racking my brain. No, not unless you do silly stuff like individual topics, kind of have courses set up just with one topic in them, and then kind of meta enrollments and things like that. But you know, within a particular topic, you could assign roles to users within individual activities. that are inside those that's inside that topic. So we can have a little look at some of that later. That's probably the easiest fix, John. So if you've got a bunch of activities in a topic, it pained that you could within each of those activities assign different roles to the users. Okay, but maybe we'll think about that later, John. Good suggestion. Okay, so that's a little bit of a language that talks about roles. This is going into some of the administration now. This is on the iMoot site, and it's not live, don't panic. It's really interesting. So this is just wondering if I can just going to take over your screens for a second and make this a little bit larger. You know, and if you don't like it that much, I've given you permission back, so change it back. Hopefully that changed for everybody, so my slide is a bit bigger. So this is taken from the iMoot site. So at the moment I'm in site administration, and then users, permissions, and then down to define roles. And you can see most of the standard roles there and a few others that we've created to help us organize the iMoot stuff. Let's get across. Come back out of that slide. It's worth having a look, if you haven't on your site, role assignments, so you can see which particular users, so these people on the left here, are able to assign these particular roles to other people. So our iMoot facilitator, which is pretty much a manager, are able to assign these particular roles to the users within the site. So we've set up this particular role because we need the users to have access to other site users. So, for instance, when we're enrolling people onto the iMoot courses, sometimes that might need to be manual. The teacher can't have site access to be able to do that, site administration access. We wouldn't want to give site administration access to just anybody, so that's why we create a new role for it. I'm just moving along the next tab. So role overrides. So some of these roles are able to override other roles. And I'll talk a little bit more about the role overrides and how that kind of works a little later. And then probably one that you're a little bit more familiar with is the role switches, where you've got that option and change role to, so you can switch your role to a non-editing teacher or student. You might, if you're a teacher, you would have probably seen that on your courses. And this is the page that controls that. In fact, that's probably also why, if you're only assigned as a course creator and you've set up a course, I think by default you can't switch to the student role to see how it looks. So it's often useful to enable that for the course creator so that they can easily switch to the student role and see how it looks. Okay, a few other little bits and bobs on the menu. So one example from our site, those people presenting, we set up some test areas for them to have a little play in. There's a presenters zone, which is a course, and when presenters are enrolled on that course, they're enrolled as students. because we don't want to give them any more permissions than that. But so that they can practice the big blue button features, you need to have either a non-editing teacher or a teacher role to be able to practice screen sharing and presenting and use the full and upload slides and things like that to the big blue button rooms. So there's a number of different ways that we could have done that. We could have created a new we did create a new role for the presenter last year when we was using Adobe Connect. We assigned that role to all of the presenters, but I did it slightly differently this year. The people on the presenter zone course, we also wanted to have some training rooms, and in those training rooms, we just wanted them to have normal access. We didn't want them to have the moderator access. So we wanted to be able to control the presenters' access, whether they're moderators or students in the big blue button room, by activity. So what I did for that, on the presenter zone, when you're editing an activity that's there, so what I've done is click edit the big blue button instance that was added to the presenter zone. And within the administration, one of the options is locally assigned roles. And sorry, I was just accidentally zoomed right in on that. It's my mouse. One of the options is locally assigned roles. So if you're a teacher, you're actually, if you're a normal editing teacher, you'll be able to do this for different activities. So I went into the locally assigned roles and chose non-editing teacher, and all of our presenters, let's actually a bit higher, all of our presenters within that two particular activities, within those two big blue button rooms, I've assigned them to have non-editing teacher roles. So for everything on the course, they're a normal student, but within those two big blue button rooms, the practice rooms, they've got the non-editing teacher role, which allows them to, that's the important one there, which allows them to moderate a meeting. And so as a teacher, you can do that. I won't say anything about this slide yet. So as a teacher, you can do that for all sorts of different activities. You can override some of the roles that users have within that activity, or you can tinker with some of your permissions. And I'll show you some examples of that. Comment from Teresa. Yeah, please, guys, chat away in the chat. Otherwise, I start to go a little bit crazy and think I'm just sitting here talking to myself. My issue is deciding whether to override a permission or assign a local role. Basically, it's the same results. Possibly. It depends. There's all sorts of different examples you could use. So, if it's the one that I like to mess about with is forums, and assign students to have to be able to rate forums. So stuff like set up a customized role, a custom grade scale, with some comments rather than numbers or letters, and then allow students to assign those to forum posts. So things like I don't know, outstanding contribution, or please add some more detail, or that kind of thing. And so for that particular one, I would just edit the permission that allows the students to rate the forum. I wouldn't assign them as a teacher or assign them as a non-editing teacher, because that might give them a little bit too much permission. And, you know, think about stuff like, very rarely would you assign a student as a teacher for a whole course, or even assign a student as a non-editing teacher for a whole course, because then they can get into the gradebook and they can see each other's grades. If they've got edit capabilities, they can change those grades, and all sorts of things like that. Student moderator, well, yeah, definitely. So you could have, and that's one that I often use as well. So create a new role, like Teresa suggested there, student moderator, and then just tweak some of those abilities. And the other thing is, if you're changing some of these roles and permissions, you can choose, if it's a within a forum, if you're tweaking, say, the student role to allow them to edit posts, then that allows every single student to edit posts. Or you could create a new role and only apply it to one or two students. So you can kind of be clever there and decide whether you want to override some of the permissions for everybody or just create a new role and apply it to a certain few students. Oh, sorry, I must do something about my mouse. Are you guys seeing me zoom in and out of this slide a lot? Okay, I shall try not to. I've got one of the, there's a, what do you call it, the Mac Magic Mouse or whatever, it's got a touch sensitive on top. Maybe a little too sensitive. Okay, anyway, so, creating a new role, most of the time, in fact, all of the time, I would say base it on a role that exists. So, the path to get to this is back into site administration, users, permissions, and then define roles. So this is our iMoot facilitator role, which we've applied to all the iMoot team. And that's just the important bit to point out to you there. So basing it on an existing role, so a teacher role, and then that basically copied across all the permissions that are already there. And then you can look down the list and then start to play with them and override some I like to kind of think about opening up access to certain users. So when you do begin to create roles, I said earlier, these different capabilities, literally hundreds and hundreds. So it's just worth pointing out that you can filter them. So just type in the particular capabilities that you're looking for that you'd like to tweak, and then you can come up with a list of them. And at any point, you can just click on, these are all hyperlinks. You can click, so on a real site, on a live site, these are all hyperlinks, which you can click on, and that'll take you through to the Moodle docs, which gives you a brief overview of particular capability. Yeah, I remember older versions of Moodle before that filter was there, and you'd have to bring it up as a web page and then have to use the web page search to go down and all sorts of fun and games like that. I'm trying to, this is a really difficult one for me to pitch to the right level, so hopefully I'm not telling you everything that you know already. If I am, then you can always jump into the document, the shared task that I set up. But yeah, just kind of shout, give me some feedback in chat. And other stuff, you know, there's other problems with the audio, if I'm going too fast, if it's slow, etc., etc. The risks is worth a little mention while I'm here. Now, I'm certainly not an expert on this, which is why on my next slide I've given you a place on noodle.org where you can go to find out. But basically, there's with each capability, you've got these 4 different permissions. Not set, which means it's inherited from another role. Allow, it's granted for that role. Prevent means that that particular permission is, it says, prevented. And prohibit, which is that strong one, which can't be overridden. The way that it works out the allow and prevent, I think, is a completely over my head and a little bit like black magic. There's some, it'll do if you've got a user that's got a bunch of different permissions within a context, then it will do some magic and decide whether to allow it or prevent it. So it's worth trying it out to make sure that it actually does what you want it to do. Not set means that it inherits it from another role. So I can probably show you some examples of that a little bit later. So if you've got a user, you've got a. I'll come back to it when I've got an example in front of me to show you, with which I have a little bit later. So the risks. I'll go back to the little triangles. So with certain roles, there's different risks, and some are more dangerous than others. When you're changing these roles, you can hover over and it'll tell you what these different risks are. And if I go through to this slide, docs.moodle.org/25/EM/risks talks to you about the different risks. The worst one, the worst two, probably cross-site scripting and the spam. Sorry. There we go. So cross-site scripting can possibly allow users to inject scripts and cause some serious damage to your site. Privacy can be a concern, and spam. So an example of the spam one would be the forum capability, where you can allow the user to force everybody to be subscribed. So if you gave that to a user, they could spam everybody. So there we go. When you're changing these roles, teachers, if you're a teacher, you can't do much damage. But if you're an admin, then it is worth kind of stopping and thinking about some of the risks. I wonder if we've got a Monty Python badge. Knowing Julian, probably. There you go, John. If there's a Monty Python badge, then I'll mention you for it. Okay, so overriding specific permissions. So before, when I was talking about my big blue button example, I wanted the presenters to have this particular capability set to allow. I wanted the presenters to be able to moderate a meeting. So this thing about inheriting it from another role, for that particular example, that permission isn't set. And if it's not set, then it will be prevented, so they won't be able to do it. So going kind of up the hierarchy, if you've got a guest login, then most things won't be allowed. Students, they'll have more access. Teachers, non-editing teachers, even more teachers, even more, etc., etc. So this idea about inheriting it is from another role. So users will often have lots of different roles. If you're a teacher, you'd have the teacher role. You might have a few other roles. If you're an admin, you might have admin role, course creator role, teacher role. But you can specifically, yeah, thanks Teresa. Yeah, and of course everybody on the site has got that authenticated user role, which a lot of the basic permissions will be inherited from. That's right. So if there's nothing set for a student or for a teacher, then they take the role that is on that authenticated user. So back to my big blue button example, where I wanted students to be able to have moderator roles. The other way I could have done it was to change the permission within the student role. So just editing the student role and basically overriding that particular capability and setting it to allow. So I'm trying to kind of give you a few different examples of how you can play with roles for users on your course. So you can either make up a new role. In fact, I've got this on my next slide. Here we go. So as long as you have got the ability to do this, because obviously you need certain permissions to be able to do this. If you're a teacher, you can do some of this. If you're an administrator, you can do all of this. So if you're an administrator, you could create a new role to assign in any context. If you're an administrator, or if you're, it depends how you're, the earlier slides, who's allowed to assign what. But if you've got the right permissions, you could assign a teacher, a non-editing teacher, role to just certain students for a particular activity. Or again, for a particular activity, you could override a particular permission for the students, for all of your students for that particular activity. So that's kind of a little summary, and I just want to take a couple of minutes for you to digest some of that. And if you want to ask me questions, then please go for it. Question, backups, when should you tick roles? I've ended up with multiple versions and nearly 1.9. Yeah, that I think has got, that's a 1.9. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've used 1.9. They do, yeah, it's get to 2, or get to 2.5. But even still, if you've got a custom role that's being used on your course, when you back up that course, then you can back up that role, and if you restore that course into a different site, then that role will be created again within that course. So I kind of forget that, and I've got when I've been doing training stuff, I've done lots of kind of like some of the examples that I've been talking about today, where I've got courses that I've restored into sites, and then suddenly the roles aren't doing what I expect them to because I've been messing about with the student permissions, but that's just my bad practice. Really, it's much better to create new roles wherever you can, rather than tweaking the kind of standard roles that are in there. Teresa, I'm not really an admin, so I think you're prompted to match the role into, oh, when you're upgrading from, is that when you're upgrading from 1.9? Or if you're, yeah, then, because you've got all those archetype roles that are in the system. And so that will pull, if you do, when you do go from 1.9 upwards, if you're upgrading, then those roles will transfer over. Okay, we'll come back to you. Just clone it, yeah. So then when you do, if you've got, you can choose. But if you're manually backing up a course and then restoring it somewhere else, then you can choose whether to take the roles or not. No, you should be able to, Christine. You should be able to assign roles within a block. One of the concepts. In fact, Moodle does that all the time with different blocks. Maybe that's your permissions. Send me an email. Email me, give me some more details. That's probably one that I'd need to know more about your site to be able to help you with this thing. But yeah, pop it on an email. I'm happy to see what I can advise. Okay, so time for action. And I can see some of you have jumped into that document already, which is cool. I don't want to, some people are already editing that. What I want you to do, let me just, I've got you all quite big screen at the moment. Let me switch back so I can see. I want to get you to try and pair up. I haven't tried this. I've got no idea whether it'll work or not. But at the next to your chat, in that chat box, you've got a little plus sign, which if you click on that plus sign, that should give you all of the users that are in the chat. If you click on that plus sign, pick somebody you like the look of, or that you want to say hello to, and I want just some conversations to go on. So just pick somebody and kind of have a think to yourself, pair up, have some conversations, private conversations in chat, suggest to each other some ideas, how you could edit these roles, and try and think about the teaching, try and think about what situations you want to change some of the permissions in, and then I'm going to get you to feed that back in a few minutes. So, pair up, have some comment. If there's, you might end up pairing up with 2 or 3 people, but pick somebody. So click on the little plus next to chat, pick somebody and have a conversation. See how it goes. Okay, maybe this isn't, yeah. Okay, possibly that's one to feed back to the Big Blue Button team that that managed to break chat. Um, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how because actually, possibly you could. Maybe you can only have one private chat going at a time. Um, because Teresa, I just tried to annoy you, and um, and as soon as I did, it stops. I think it broke your chat. So I don't know. Maybe. Okay. Well, anyway, hopefully you've had a little chance.
Hi,
Uh,
Vinny. Sorry.
hello.
So I am a bit stuck in the chat, but we did have an instance. You can have more than one chat open,
Hmm.
but we did find, and I had this earlier, that if you chat in one tab, say I had John and Dot, both. I had chat tabs for both of them. When I was chatting to John, it actually copies the chat into both John and Dot's tabs. We did notice this earlier, and we've let Fred know. So I think we found a bit of a problem there. So you have to be really careful that you don't write stuff that you don't want the other person to know about. just
Private chat,
just thought
private
I'd let
chat,
you
not
know.
so private.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's lucky I didn't type what I was going to type to you then. Okay, cool. So that's given you all a little bit of time for some reflection. So what I have done, um, set up as I said right at the beginning, I set up a shared uh, Google Google presentation. So I can give you a link to it. Oops, I shouldn't have clicked through on that. 5 boxes. I'd like you, as best you can, come up with a particular customized role or a suggestion for a custom role. What context you would assign it in, so whether a course, a particular activity, or whole site, that kind of thing, or a combination of it. What that role is, description. What permissions, if you know the permissions, you'd change. Fantastic. If not, you could leave that blank and somebody else could fill it in. And any other explanation and notes at the bottom for that particular role. Now, you can access, you should be able to click on the middle of this slide here. That's a working hyperlink on this slide. It will take you straight through to that document. If I switch to my other user, so if you click through to that document, and then just go for it, have a play, add, edit. There's a bunch of stuff there already, which I kind of picked up in the past. I can't remember where it was on a similar, when I've run something similar to this before. So that's what the document looks like. I can see Teresa's looking at that second page there. I did notice that Teresa's already added some stuff and edited some content already. If you need to, just make another copy and pop your names at the bottom because I want to kind of, I want to just release this to the community afterwards. Just send it around on Twitter or something like that. And hopefully get lots more people contributing to it. Because that's one of the, I mean, the Moodle docs is amazing. There's so much quality stuff there. But I couldn't find anything that kind of wanted, that kind of explained more so the kind of the context that you'd explain, that you'd assign certain roles in, and the actual ideas. So have a little play with that. And then feel free to pop comments in chat. Thank you, Penny. I was just going back over the chat history. Looks like there's been some of you have had a chance to have some conversations and some good discussion. Look, so I've opened this up to anonymous access. So anybody that's got the link to us, can edit it. And excuse me, you realise people is the anonymous GR, who's the monthly. Yeah, so there's, as I said, there's a bunch of content there that actually the last time I did this was I had it all set up in a Google spreadsheet and got people to contribute to it that way. So this is stuff that people either found and pasted in from bits and pieces over the web, or they've added it themselves. Yeah, so if you are editing this, then that last page in the document, page 18, pop the name on the collaborators list, and then feel free to take a copy of this. If you're a Google Drive user, you should be able to click on File and make a copy of it. And share it with your friends. Pop it out on Twitter. In fact, I should have done it before, really. Tweet it out there. You could use, because that's quite a long link. Oh, Twitter automatically shortens it, doesn't it? Or you could copy the link from my presentation. I'm gonna, for that document, I'm going to leave as always open access. So yeah, feel free to use it in the future.
And Vinny, just before everything wraps up here, I'd like to say thank you very much for your presentation. That was awesome.
Thank you, Lindy.
I managed to learn some stuff from that, so thank you very much.
Oh, cool. Cool.
Those of you who are still here, welcome to ask Vinny some questions in the chat here, or please keep the conversation going on the forums related to the course, or indeed the iMoot forums. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Lindy. I think I've been logged out there. Just one last little bit. That's on the course page. I said I mentioned all that is just a label. On I go to the Google document, under File and Publish to the web, you can click on that, and you can take the embed code. You have to click on Start Publishing first. Take the embed code, which is an iframe, and then on the course, this is just a label, and I've gone into the HTML on the label and pasted in that embed code. And you can do that with most Google stuff. For graphs on Google Spreadsheet, you can generate a graph and then copy the image code to get a picture of that graph. It's called an image, but it's actually live, and it'll update when you update the data in it as well. So, but yeah, as long as you use the iframe, the other things on some of the Google things, you've got another option, the Java option, which Google just freaks out about. So iframe is the way to go. Okay, well that's it. So thank you very much, guys. And yeah, if you've got any other questions, pop it into the chat, or there you go.